Hey guys, and welcome back to the Movie Club Emporium. My name is Jason, and go ahead, introduce yourself, partner.
I'm Nick, and I'm here in the great year of 2025 with my pal Jason to talk about the year in review of 2024 and talk about what we did this year, what we were into, and kind of what the future holds in 2025. We've got some great things ahead, and I'm here, me and my old cowboy hat, to talk about movies.
You know, I was gonna ask you what you did over the holidays, but I'm assuming it's watch Yellowstone.
Yes. Yellowstone, John Dutton forever. I look forward to the inevitable 7 Yellowstone spinoffs and the spinoffs of those.
I was gonna say, I thought
Also,
you were gonna say 7 more seasons. I was like, I have bad news.
it'll come back at a terrible
Horizon
Western movie named
Horizon Part
SWAT.
3 and 4 ain't happening anytime soon, so it might come back.
Ugh. And also been watching Landman, so with Billy Bob Thornton, which is a basically a soap opera, but it's oddly addicting. But although I can sum it up like this: Billy Bob Thornton smoking a cigarette, throwing money at people, and then getting in fights with his wife. That's a lot of the show, but it's
What?
gonna be like people are eating it up.
Yeah. Hey, the guy writes to an audience because he owns the Paramount Network, so good on him. But yeah, the only thing, my
Yeah,
only complaint is Billy Bob Thornton. We all saw Sling Blade. We all saw Armageddon. You need to pull a Travolta. Just let it go. Let it go. Don't have to
yeah,
pretend anymore. We all know you're bald. Let it go.
yes. It's just like, come on, dude. It's like you're 69. We've seen a receding hairline in the past. We know
Hey,
he's gonna cling on to that as long as he possibly can.
the same thing goes for Nick Cage, and I love Nick Cage, but let it go. Let it go. This isn't Raising Arizona. That Widow's Peak has been there since the 80s. Let it go.
Yes, it's like you are fooling no one.
Oh. Well, this is exciting because this is our office Christmas party, and naturally, being who we are, it's our after Christmas office Christmas party. But that's okay because yeah, like Nick said, we're gonna break down kind of just some random topics, look back at the year of 2024, what all we got done with you guys, and then hopefully with some of you pitching in, look to 2025. And speaking of which, make sure you are here every month because there are 12. Well, I think there's at least 12. I think. When did we start this? Yeah, we did after Office Christmas Party. There are at least 12, if not more, live videos that we've done on Twitch, and we do them every single month. So you want to be here for those. They do go up. They are archived later on YouTube. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Sitting here today, I don't remember if I put last month's up. So you need to make sure you're here live so you can see it all happen in the flesh. Plus, you never know what I may edit out. Um, it could be we cut the whole bit with Nick's cowboy hat. One minute you see it, the next minute it's gone. You never know what the replay is going to look like. So you also got to follow
Never,
that 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 sacred YouTube algorithm. So sometimes you don't know what happens, but catch it here live. You see all the nuts and bolts. See all how the sausage is made with nuts and
in
bolts,
all
right?
in all of its uncut raw glory. Who knows what'll happen? Will I wear makeup again? Will I wear many funny hats or a tuxedo T-shirt? Who knows? You'll have to tune in and see.
There was a moment, and there was a long moment when I saw you talked about you were going to wear a cowboy hat. I turned to Ember and said, "Why is he going to wear a cowboy hat? Should I wear something?" And so there was a moment where you almost saw Jason in a gold chain and a velour tracksuit because the joke was you spent Christmas rewatching Yellowstone, while I spent Christmas rewatching The Sopranos. But then I was like, a velour tracksuit under these lights? I don't think so, Mister. It's not going to
You
be the
will
year and
roast.
party. It's going to be watching Jason sweat.
You will roast alive in that thing. Ah,
And
that's more doable.
there you go. I way better there, Haas. I give Nick a hard time, but in all actuality, he's my Huckleberry. But also, if you want to see us do this, not just on a on a monthly basis, but every single week, you crave our mostly correct opinions on movies, whether they be brand new, fresh out the theater movies, or they're movies that nobody else is talking about. It's definitely gonna be happening this month. We have our YouTube channel over at the Movie Club Emporium. Every single Sunday, new video goes up, new review. January is probably the most fun of all of our theme months we do because it's 90s schlock January. And I have four of the goofiest, 90th movies. Ironically enough, I'm pretty sure uh, there's a good chance every villain in every one of these movies at one time wears a duster. So you never know.
Is
That's
what
I. Go ahead.
is one of the movies Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man?
It's not. I will.
Oh,
Here's the
I just
hints I gave on the last Christmas video, which you go watch those because not a lot of people came out for Fa La Lycanthropy, but I had fun watching werewolf movies in December, and then also finding out why we don't make Wendigo movies because the ones we make are mostly terrible.
yes.
But so the next 4 weeks are going to involve a Elm Street ripoff, like a C D tier ripoff. We're not talking something fun like Shocker House 3. D tier Elm Street Rob knockoff. A cult, not like, hey, everybody likes this, but like a cult movie starring the father of a big TV star and a 80s porn icon. There's also a weird movie. It's a follow up movie from a director that Nick and I both love, even though he's turns out to be a giant creep. But it's his hot, sweaty, cut to ribbons by Miramax movie. And then finally, I mean, I can't give any. I can't. It's Christopher Walken plays an angel. So we're gonna have some fun this month. Um, and then next month, so February, just to go ahead and get this out of the way, to make sure you guys are tuned in while we are hoping to get some viewers in. We are doing our best and worst stuff at the end of February, mostly because we still have to watch stuff. I try to go to the movies as much as possible. I think right now I'm setting at about 40 movies for 2024. I'm try to get some more in, try to get that up to a nice 50 or more. But we want to see everything that we can. So we're going to give you the best, most accurate, up to date, best and worst films of 2024. Plus, we
Yeah,
like to do it when everybody's done.
I'm trying to catch up on some of the movies I didn't get around to seeing in the movie theater. It's been a wild year in my life,
Yeah.
so and there's several I wanted to hit that I didn't end up hitting. I think 2024 was a great year for movies, but there's some really crappy out there ones I need to watch to fill out my terrible list. I have some, but I need more. Um, two of which are comic book movies, which I gotta see if they're that bad. So
I want to hold. I want to hold off. I probably should, but I just, spoilers for that list. I have not. I took this year off not not consciously, but I was looking. I was like, I haven't watched a comic book movie either this year. Although there is one I need to watch. It's not a major comic book, but it's a comic book that even when the people hate one of the movies in it, I like that movie. So I want to see how bad this one is. Involving our favorite Red Right Hand, if you know what I mean. Um,
Yes.
but I haven't seen any of the other ones like good or bad. So I'm gonna try to watch some. Otherwise, I'm saving myself uh, for a movie that we'll talk about later. But first, how's everybody doing? So yeah, 2024. It was a wild year for movies in the theater, for movies at home. Um, but I kind of, since we were at our Christmas party, there are usually gifts. Um, and I don't have any gifts for anybody, spoilers, but I can show you some cool things that I picked up this year that came out this year that I think are kind of cool and kind of why I think they're cool. Um, this isn't a physical media channel because number one, I don't have the line of credit to make this physical media channel that just talks about buying all the physical media and opening it and showing it to you. Because if I did try to do that, I would be somewhere collecting dust under whatever crawl space my wife put me in. Um, but there are some special editions, some boutique things I picked up that are kind of cool. You know, we talked about last month Fear.com getting like a high def, like nice, pristine release. Cannibal the Musical got one as well. One of the big ones that came out that I don't have over here next to me from Vinegar Syndrome was they released a 4K version. The movie went from like VHS to 4K of Michael Mann's The Keep.
Ooh, that's a.
Uh,
Is that a? Does that have any more versions with less cut out of it, or is it just a straight transfer, or what? Because that movie was cut to pieces,
yeah,
and the keep is a mess of a
yeah.
movie.
I don't. I think it's just the original version. They said most of the stuff is lost. Um, whatever company was got rid of it. Uh, but it is to think about something like that. I mean, and it for a movie that nobody really talks about except people. You talk about Michael Mann movies, like, oh yeah, he hates that movie. He. I know the reason one forever it said it was kind of left on VHS was he didn't want any more releases of it out there. It was his kind of like ET the game, like he didn't want it out in circulation. But I don't know how they got it, but they got it and restored it, and it looks incredible. And with the sound, that Tangerine Dream score is fantastic. If you want nothing else for the keep, I'd say read the book, um, and then like watch the movie simply for style and music.
Yeah, I found the keep on VHS back in 2009 when I was living in San Antonio, brand new in the wrapper. I ended up taking it home and opening it up and watching it, which I regret because, as you know, that movie is rare.
Mm-hmm.
It is rare on tape, and I have a copy that's almost like new. Um, it's a I find it a very fascinating movie. It has it's got a killer cast because you have Durchin Pronchow and Ian McKellen, Scott Glenn, among others. You have this amazing setting of this fortress that's kind of in the mountains, set during World War II. The whole thing, it's such a cool idea and a cool setting, a cool cast, and a great Tangerine Dream soundtrack. The movie is just such a wreck.
Yeah,
It is it's nonsensical, it's cut to pieces, it just doesn't flow at all. It's a shame because man, there was so much potential there.
yeah. It's a movie that even in its current state, it starts off so strong, and then it just like immediately like maybe 30 minutes in, maybe just falls to pieces. Like it's just all over the place. You can tell there's whole swaths because I think the original cut was like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour cut, and it's like barely 90 minutes. I think it's like it's short.
Yeah, it
It
is just
yeah, it
it's
was a real
not
like Justice League situation.
it's it's such a baffling movie just seeing it, especially looking into the director and all that. It's just there was a vision, and you're like, man, it feels like they almost had it together. uh that's the thing at that point, a kind of horror thriller at that point in the mid 80s, that's 2.5 to 3 hours long, just was not going to fly.
No,
It was not.
yeah. Even coming off the success of Thief, um, which I mean, there's part of me that's like, oh, would have been cool to see Michael Mann do another genre picture, but then you probably wouldn't get like he kind of like fell back into that Thief world, that kind of neo noir crime world, and we got movies like Collateral and Heat, and I'll say it right now, the Miami Vice movie. We got the Miami Vice show, so depends how high you want your sleeves pushed up or not. What version of Miami Vice you like. Um, so yeah, I wanted to start there. Some fun stuff here, some cool stuff to look at. Number one, um, let me ask you something. How do you feel? What is your stance on Dario Argento's Suspiria, the OG Suspiria?
Full disclosure, never watched it.
Okay, okay. So anything about the remake, the 2018, whatever the director's name is. I should really learn his name because he's becoming one of my favorites. But the remake they did of Suspiria.
I've not seen that either.
Okay, well then you're the perfect audience for this. I the OG Suspiria I know is loved by many, as I can see in the credits. I love that remake because if you sit down and say, "Hey, we're gonna remake a Dario Argento movie," anybody who's seen Argento is gonna go, "No, you're not. Like you can't. You can't do it." And they really don't. They take the premise of a uh, American girl goes to Germany, ballet company run by witches, and then he makes his own movie with that. Um, I remember seeing it in the theaters, and it's long. It's got this incredible Tom York score from Radiohead. He does the music for it. You have Tilda Swinton being super. She's like Super Saiyan Tilda Swinton because she plays like three different people in the movie. But Umbrella, which is a company out of Australia, put out like this deluxe edition. I mean, see, I can't even do this because I can't even see. Pull up my screen so I can see this super box set of a 4K. It's a 4K and the Blu-ray, and it's great because it's not colorful. It's it's not dreamlike. It's very kind of grounded in history because it takes place after there's a event because it takes place kind of right next to the Berlin Wall. You see a lot of the wall in the movie. Um, I highly recommend. I think that would be a really fun episode sometime, maybe, to do like a compare, not really compare and contrast, but especially if you being a first time watch, I think would be neat.
Yes, absolutely.
For
I've
Suspiria.
seen a little bit of seen a little bit of Argento. What I've seen, I've liked. It falls in the category of movies for me and directors that have kind of fallen through the cracks. Uh, I've seen more Fulci movies than Argento, which is a shame because I think Fulci is a hack for the most part. But Argento, I mean, the kind of visual style and atmosphere that guy could put in movies, truly impressive. So I'm down for doing that. I'm down for giving those both a view.
Yeah. So that's a really cool release, and like it's that's the other thing too is you'll learn is Other countries get the coolest stuff. Here in America, they just throw that crap in Walmart and just walk away. But you think now with the advancement of 4K, regions aren't a big thing anymore. Uh, so I highly recommend finding that one. Most of these aren't that cheap. I won't tell how much they cost because somebody's sitting here right next to me. Uh, but they're still in double digits. So let's take it and we'll just say that they're in double digits. Um, One that I was surprised by when I was kind of figuring out what I was going to talk about was one. So this year saw kind of this resurgence of the concert film, whether it was, of course, everybody saw the Eras tour, um, except for my mother in law because she has a deep, burning hatred for Taylor Swift. Um, I don't know what is happening. Um, yeah, even Ghost had a concert film in the theater, and so to celebrate the I guess the anniversary of it, they got the rights, restored it in 4K, and made this super. Of course, because of who it is, it's this nonsense packaging. But it is Jonathan Demme's Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads
Yes.
concert. Um, I will tell you now, I'm so glad that I didn't discover the Talking Heads in high school. Because I know high school Jason would not have appreciated the Talking Heads the way now adult Jason does.
Same.
Probably maybe 10 years ago is when I first heard the Talking Heads and started listening to their music. Um, this is a fantastic concert film. Um, a lot of critics will tell you it's the greatest concert film ever. And it may very well be. But if you are not a fan of the Talking Heads, that might make you one. Um, because there's such a weird group, and David Byrne's such a goofy, like he's the perfect guy for a weird. He's like the serious version of Weird Al. Like, I just can't explain David Byrne. Like you can't. He's like musical David Lynch. Um, but it's a great concert film. They make some great music. Um, and like I said, really glad that I was able to find them later. I'm glad they released it because forever it was not available. Every once in a while, it would pop up on Prime and be like, "Hey, come watch it." Oh, it's gone now. Sorry, it's unavailable. And so now that you can actually get it, it's pretty awesome. Uh, do you have any thoughts on the Talking Heads? I was like, "Oh, you're
We
gonna."
met. We I really dig their music. I meant Stop Making Sense when they showed it in the theaters was one I really meant to go see, but again fell through the cracks. I need to watch the concert film in its entirety to see parts of it. Uh, One of my we talked about the Talking Heads and David Byrne came up long ago in our comfort movies because I talked about True Stories
Mm-hmm.
being one of my comfort movies and
Yeah,
I, easily in my top 25 movies of all time. Just an excellent movie. I think the dude is a master artist in a variety of aspects. Uh, and Which, given the fact I'm a fan, I really need to get around to watching it in its entirety. I love the style, I love the humor, and I love the talent involved.
yeah. It was one like so we were going to watch the Ghost concert in theaters. And so, like, to prepare Ashton and Amber, who have never seen a concert film, like, what do you do? I'm like, well, hang on, we're gonna watch. Also, trying to be cool, dad, like teach your young 16-year-old kid like to listen to Talking Heads. Um, but to be like, check this out. And it was a lot of fun. So this is an actual box. This is probably best packaging of the year. Um, and it is uh the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment box set from Arrow, um, with this disgusting sleeve on it. What's cool about it over like the other Hellraiser stuff? Because there was that what do they call it? There was like the one of 1, 2, and 3. I used to have Trilogy of Blood or something like that. Is it has the original like director's cut of Part 4, the Hellraiser in
Ooh.
space one. So it's kind of like when you see the Alien 3 assembly cut, where it's just like, oh, well, all this makes it make sense. Thanks, Miramax.
I'm a hardcore defender of Bloodlines,
Mm-hmm.
even in its original cut. I think it's the most underrated Hellraiser movie. I think it's a movie that shouldn't work but does. I really need to watch the uncut version because,
Yeah.
I really love Hellraiser 4. I think it gets a bad rap. And because people, anytime you hear of any series that does not start in space and goes to space, everyone's like, oh, well, it's going to be terrible. But not always.
Which honestly, if you think about horror wise, I mean, so the big three I can think, you have Bloodlines, you have Jason X, and you have Leprechaun 4. I'm 100% with you. I think Bloodlines is a good Hellraiser movie. I think it's just
Yes, it
criminally
is.
underrated. Um, uh, I like Jason X. It's dumb and it's fun. It knows exactly what it is and does it to perfection. Um, Hellraiser, or not Hellraiser, Leprechaun 4 in space is is the worst of them. But it's weird because it was directed by he's an Australian filmmaker. He's all over that Not Quite Hollywood DVD documentary, and it kind of, to me it feels like another like Howling 3, where it's just like it's weirdly Australian. Um, so I don't hate it, but of the three monster villains in space, it is the worst. But no, I was like, that's a pricey box set. I've already got the three. It's got those. Okay, yeah, I'll buy it. Cause yeah, like you, I
Also
love
throughout their
4.
also throughout their Critters 4 takes place in space,
Okay,
and
yeah.
it's okay.
Well, critters I give a little leeway because they are from space.
Yes, you know.
The, these last two I pulled out specifically for you. These are for Nick. Um, this one is from probably right now my favorite label that's putting these out. Whatever they put out, if it's if it's not region locked, I'm getting it. They're the ones that you can kind of tell and see behind me. Second Sight Video, or Second Sight from the UK. They were working on this for over 3 years, getting all the film together, getting it restored, getting the director's approval, getting new interviews, all new features. Uh, there's also a hardcover box as well as the original screenplay in this collection, and it is The Hitcher,
Oh, beautiful.
which is a movie club. Like this was holy grail when it got announced, and like I said, it got announced like years ago. Um, and it's just been like waiting for it to come out. This movie's fantastic. At some point, we got to talk about this movie. Um,
We we do. There's various places we could put it in. We could talk about the various Hitcher movies. We could talk about. We could fit it in a Rugger Hauer episode. It was a Hitcher. I remember my dad and I watching it on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon on TV, and it was one of the first thrillers I watched that really grabbed me.
mhm.
It blew me away, and it really helped shape my taste in movies. And it's upon many rewatches, it's such a good movie, such a good movie.
So because I'm dumb and I don't even read my own notes, I have it. We'll get to it later. I have it in a possible group we could do. But yeah, that bad boy, and it looks so good. It sounds so good. Um, it's a fantastic piece. Definitely pick it up. And this last one is honestly, I think, the newest movie. Um, this version seems kind of dumb to own now on the surface because it is widely available. But at the time, the knowledge was this movie wasn't even going to get an American release until next year. Like they were holding off all of 2024. You're not going to get a copy of this movie until at least 2025. So when the website uh, had this pre-sale on it, and I think it went up in like January, and it wasn't coming out till August. Um, and it isn't region free. Only the first or second disc, two discs are we can actually watch it. But I had to get it, and it's a now it's a beautiful set. But it is the Godzilla minus one Godzilla.com exclusive. It was a Japanese release with like four discs. This is why I don't do this on the internet. But a beautiful. So you get Godzilla minus one, you get minus one minus color, and then you get it on Blu-ray, and then you get I think supplemental stuff, which it'll all play, but it's in Japanese. There's no American subtitles on the bonus stuff because this was supposed to be a Japanese exclusive.
Right.
Um, it's a beautiful case. It's well, it's not probably. It's the best Godzilla movie in 50 years, give or take.
I I say for me the three great Godzilla movies: the original Godzilla,
I
Shin
forgot.
Godzilla, and
I forgot
Godzilla
Shin
minus
Godzilla.
one.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and it's just there's other great ones in between there, but those three are easily the top three. And another one, hey, Godzilla episode. Man, that is a deep well to draw from.
Oh yeah. Oh that, and then I bought the Criterion had the what was the first like 8 movies or whatever it is, 10 movies set, um, whatever the era, and then now that they announced they're releasing, it's Godzilla versus I can't remember what it is, but the Criterion Collection is releasing a 4K of it. But I think it's people think it's the bridge. It's supposed to be the bridge between one of the first two eras, the Toho, and then whatever the other one was. I'm not the Godzilla guy. I know you are. But it's Godzilla versus. It's like a big. Well, it's a big kaiju monster. I can't remember what it fights, but I shouldn't have even brought it up. But it looks cool, and I was like, okay, I want to get that one, especially if they're gonna do the second era. Um, but yeah, like I said, there was plenty others. If you're into '80s metal horror movies, there is a beautiful restoration of the Trick or Treat movie, the OG Trick or Treat with
Ooh.
Sammy Kerr, and uh, it actually looks like what it's supposed to be instead of that. Remember that awful DVD? They had it at Hastings forever when we would go there. I feel like I saw it every time we
Yeah.
ever went. Where it has Ozzy Osbourne like a promo photo and Gene Simmons in a promo photo, and it just says trick or treat, and like they're
Are
both in
used
the movie
to.
for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, Gene Simmons is like a DJ, and Ozzy Osbourne is like a TV preacher or something. And yeah, they're barely in the movie at all.
Yeah,
But of course, they're gonna push that.
yeah. But that came out. I mean, like I said, Cannibal the musical. Uh, Vinegar Syndrome did a like deluxe box 4K. So here are some of the 4Ks they released this year that I actually picked up that didn't make this list. Um, China O'Brien 1 and 2. So some Cynthia Rothrock Walk Tall knockoff. Um, they did Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. So you needed to see Sybil Danning's boobies in high definition. You can. Um, and why wouldn't you? Uh, they also did. And this one is it was a personal favorite of mine. I think I maybe mentioned it when we were talking about Waterworld. There were two VHSs that were on constant rotation because they were long, and I could kind of be playing and just have them on in the background. One was Waterworld, and the other was Congo, and so they did this huge 4K restoration of Congo, and they're actually doing a sale right now, where they have done a 4K reversion of Virtuosity.
Virtuosity.
So, but yeah, that's just like I said. I'm certainly not a physical media channel. I own a lot, much to my wife and our square footage dismay. But it is what it is. I tell her it's my one vice. I could be worse. I could be into all kinds of like. I could be into magic, not like ta-da, but like the Magic the Gathering.
Yes.
Or
Oh,
other,
yes.
or just up close magic and just really independent teller.
Oh, that's worse.
Just walking
Real,
around.
real quick, Logan, we're talking about an entirely different Trick or Treat movie. It's from 1986. It is not the horror anthology from, I believe it was 2009, which is a great movie. I love the Trick or Treat anthology. This is a terrible B movie from the mid 80s with cameos by Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, it's a hair metal like Freddy Krueger knockoff that is dumb but also kind of fun. With like a killer soundtrack if you love like 80s metal. If you want to have a good night, you watch Trick or Treat, you watch Black Roses, and then you finish it off with Rock and Roll Nightmare.
Yes. There's and bingo, another idea, 80s hair metal horror movies cuz
Yep.
holy cow, there's Black Roses has to be seen to be believed. It's something.
Or what was
Before I
the
move
Hack a Lantern?
yeah, another one. Before we move on, I I did I didn't get I picked up some of my physical movies on VHS this year, but one
Yeah.
thing I had to show you that I found for my board game collection, as you see behind me, and it is movie related. Back in the '80s, during the height of the Road Warrior and Mad Max ripoffs and fame, they came out with a Mad Max S board game called Under Road.
Oh, what?
Yes. And it's got this board that it's this road, and you clip it together so you can keep on pretty much going indefinitely. It's got all these different various post-apocalyptic vehicles, and you're fighting against marauders, and it's awesome. I am found at a thrift store, and I am pumped because it was one I was after, and it is knocking stuff over. Luckily, the box didn't come flying open. It looks amazing.
That sounds
80s was
awesome.
a crazy decade for board games, and that one I really wanted, and I'm glad I finally ran across it.
Yeah, Logan, I see you there, and I feel like every friend I know who went overseas, like that happened, like anything with your physical stuff that happened to, which is terribly sad, but weird that it happened to everybody.
Yes.
Now, so we wanted to kind of look back with you guys and talk about. I think you actually have your notes in front of you, or at least can tell us what videos we did. But we kind of want to look back at some of our favorite things we talked about this year. And again, most of those, I think most of them, maybe, are located on our YouTube channel under its own. If you go down to, I think it's under live stream or live hangouts, there's a playlist there of our lives, these videos. And so I will let you start this off with just when we're just throw them in the chat. Um, and as we're doing these, we're not really doing them in order, I don't guess. Just kind of some fun things you remember talking about this year. And if it's not this year, that's okay because I don't remember everything we talked about this year either. So I may
Yeah,
pop up with an old one.
I, I keep a few notebooks where I jot down ideas and whatnot, or notes on the various movies we watched. Uh, Looking back earlier on in the year, we covered a bunch of Mad Max ripoffs. And there are so many Mad Max movies to Mad Max esque movies to draw from, that we are revisiting that again, probably eventually reviewing every one of the Mad Max series along with several of its knockoffs, because we could do nothing but that on this channel, not run out of any things for a long time. But I remember that month we talked about some really fun movies. We had 2020 Texas Gladiators, the absolute mess that was American Cyborg Steel Warrior, just this entertaining piece of crap. It's just ridiculous. One of my Oh, that was for the next month. My notes aren't particularly well organized, but I, and we also talked about Dead End Drive-In, among others. We had a really interesting mix of movies. Also, Steel Dawn, which hey Logan, you and I watched that piece of shit. Uh, it was interesting to see just the directions they went with post-apocalyptic movies in the wake of the success of Mad Max and the Road Warrior. And there are some really enjoyable ones, some fun ones, and some really not great ones. You can, in fact, make a boring movie about the post-apocalypse, in my opinion. One episode I found quite entertaining was we talked about our favorite sports movies. Uh, since we're not, you know, I'm not a huge sports guy, I had to dig deep and pick some rather unconventional choices, but it was fun getting to trade those back and forth. Uh, and it was a lot of, I had a lot of fun reviewing one of my favorite sports movies, Arena, which is space MMA with Steve Armstrong, this the most American guy ever punching aliens in the face on a space station. What a fantastic movie!
Oh yeah. No, I had a blast with that. I do want to mention, yes, Logan, with your talking about Plex, because that's how I have been able to see most of the movies I've seen this year, because I didn't make it to the theater a lot, as well as more of the movies I'm going to catch up on because of the Lord's work that you're doing over there. So, thank you, sir. You are an angel and a saint. And then I also with his talk about the Fletch video. I'm really proud of that live hangout because that came out of almost necessity. We were trying to find something. We had just come off, I think, of a big one. Um, I think we were when we were planning to do the best and worst stuff. Like we were needing killing some
Yes,
time, and it was like, well, what about Flat? Like I think I'd watched maybe Joe Blow or somebody had like talked about the Fletch movies or seen like a still of it. Um, and I was like, well, let's do the Fletchers. I had never seen, the John Hamm one. I'd also gotten the books because they were on Kindle, not Kindle, Audible, and so I was listening to them, or for some of them, or tried to before I found out how much. Well, go back and watch that episode. But for that episode to come together, and it was a lot of fun talking about movies that really nobody talks about. I mean, I think now recently it has kind of got a resurgence. There was a great video essay about why Bill Murray movies always seem to do better than the Chevy Chase movies because they both play charming assholes. So but why did Bill Murray's movies and that kind of, I mean, go watch that video, but it comes down to most Bill Murray characters had an arc, whereas Fletch is the exact same at the beginning of Fletch as he is at the end of Fletch. Like, there's no growth as a human for most Chevy Chase characters.
No.
So he's just a charming asshole, which is nice because in real life I heard he's not that charming.
Yes. He is just an asshole.
Yeah, but for to be like, let's do the Fletch movies. Okay, it's 3 movies. It's super quick. I think we really dug into the meat of those movies. Had a lot of fun talking about them, and I'm hoping that some of the people who were on that chat who had never seen them got to enjoy them. Because like they were TV movies that were on all the time when we were kids. I remember watching 1 and 2 all the time, and so in order to kind of share that with people, I really am proud of that live.
It, you know, I think it went really well. It's definitely one of our more simple, smaller episodes. But we needed something to give us a little breathing room so we could get caught up on movies, which we're going to do again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I quite enjoyed that. I think all 3 of the Fletch movies are great. They held a special place in my heart. Movies I grew up watching, and I was in disbelief that when Confess Fletch came out, I was, because I believe it came out 2 or 3 years ago. I couldn't believe in the 2020s I was
Yeah,
watching a Fletch movie in the movie theater. It's just fun movies, and it's one of those. All 3 are very much worth watching.
yeah. Or I'll ask off camera Amber. Did you have a
I
particular live that you enjoyed?
Probably the Fletch one.
Oh, we gotta be remiss for mentioning us reviewing the best arm wrestling movie ever made, Over the Top, which I forget between viewings just how weird and entertaining that movie is. Just a father and son bonding over their love of trucks and arm wrestling. It's an absurd movie that can only exist in the 80s. I am surprised no one has tried to remake it. I have a feeling one of these days somebody will, and I don't know who will play him, Glenn Powell or something, because he seems to be that guy these days. But I think it's one of those movies. It's great, it works because of the time it came out.
Yeah.
I I also had that was an entertaining bunch of them watching our back to school episode a few months back,
Mm-hmm.
where doing Class of Nukem High, which is something else. The tragically underrated 3 o'clock high, and I wasn't as fond of it, but I know you liked it. The Slaughter High.
Mm-hmm.
We had some. I always love a chance to talk about 3 o'clock high, especially in the light of the fact that it was remade a few years back and nobody realizes it
Yeah.
as Fist Fight. Sure enough, recently I went back and watched Fist Fight. I'm like, it's the same movie. It really is. It's entertaining. I really enjoy it, but it is definitely a remake of 3 o'clock high.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was a lot of fun. I really loved doing. I loved our Halloween. I loved doing the Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. Number one because Carpenter is both of ours like Mount Rushmore filmmakers, and it's a trilogy of films that on so many other platforms we've talked about, but we've never actually had to sit down and talk about together. And so that was a
Yes.
lot of fun digging into. It was a lot of fun going back and watching his Masters of Horror episode. I really makes me want to do a rewatch of that whole series. Um, I could talk about Carpenter, good or bad. Someday we get to where like let's talk about let's dig into '90s Carpenter. Like I'll do it. Let's do it. Um, so I think I know what you're
There's no,
talking about, Logan, and it's a movie that I will talk about later because it's on a list that I want to talk about. It's not Carpenter though, but I know what you're talking about.
I John Carpenter's hands down my favorite director of all time. I will talk about him all day long, uh, and I will say that I can't speak. There's one of his. I've not seen that space movie he made, the really super low budget one.
Dark Star.
Yes, I've not seen Dark Star, so I can't say for certain. I don't think he's ever made a truly bad, unwatchable movie. Even some of the stuff, and one of the things I wrote down was like some of the more oddball Carpenter movies, like Village of the Damned or Memoirs of an Invisible Man or Ghosts of Mars. Definitely lower tier Carpenter, but still entertaining and watchable. So
Uh,
I look forward to definitely covering more Carpenter down the line, considering that he has three movies in my top 10 of all time list.
oh, I have some hot takes, uh, and about that Village of the Damned remake, and you may or may not be surprised by how much what my thoughts are on that film.
I'm curious if our thoughts align there because I love the original Village of the Damned. And man, Carpenter's Village of the Damned got some scathing reviews. Generally considered to be his worst movie, and yeah, we'll get into that at another point. I
Yeah,
have thoughts on that.
yeah,
That's one we'll definitely need to prioritize talking about.
yeah. Oh yeah. Um, let's see. The Crow stuff. I mean, it meant I had to watch. To realize that the Crow franchise really shouldn't have been a franchise, but it was nice to talk about that first film. And honestly, to maybe tell people that maybe sometimes the worst Crow movie is better than the most boring Crow movie because if it wasn't
Yes.
for that, you would have never seen Wicked Prayer.
No, no. It shouldn't have been a film series. Shouldn't have been a franchise. It definitely shouldn't have been remade. I hate the remake. But let me tell you, the original Crow, great movie, fantastic movie stylistically, so well done, so well acted. And The Crow Salvation is such a hilarious, awkward pile of dog shit. I love it. It is it is so much more entertaining than the other Crow sequels or the remake, drastically so. And it's just because the movie just doesn't work on any kind of serious level at all. But it made for a good episode, and I really enjoyed talking about that. That I think, looking here, that one wound up, I think, being one of our longest ever. It ran nearly 3 hours, and I know we were talking about the crows, the Crow Wicked Prayer a lot, a lot. Uh, Back earlier in the year, in the wake of uh, watching the Iron Claw, we decided to tackle a wrestling episode, and that was one I thoroughly enjoyed.
Mhm.
Getting to just kind of have a conversation, a free flowing conversation about wrestling movies we enjoyed and kind of the impact it's had on our life, and reviewing the Iron Claw. Uh, it was a very nostalgic episode. It took me back to our younger days and took me back to wrestling growing up.
Yep.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think The Iron Claw is one of the best movies of 2023, and it made for a great episode. Also, I must throw this in there. What the hell is wrong with you, Logan? That movie was terrible. The Crow remake was
Oh,
terrible.
okay, okay. There will be lots to talk about The Crow next month. I am for sure about that.
Yes, it will come up again.
Uh,
Uh,
go ahead.
oh, nothing. I was just gonna gripe at him more. You go ahead.
Oh no. So yeah, that was great. Plus, I know it's dog shit, but to me, for whatever reason, Ready to Rumble gets such a worse deal than the other stupid buddy comedies of that time.
Yes.
I love Ready to Rumble. You know, the fact that people hated that movie so much, and there's still like there was a huge love for something like Dude, Where's My Car? And I'm like, but Dude, Where's My Car is dumb. Ready to Rumble has wrestling.
Well, it said, is it any dumber than the other Buddy movies? It's
Absolutely
really
not.
not. It gets absolutely scathing reviews quite unfairly, in my opinion. It's not a movie to be taken seriously. It's a time capsule of its era and the waning days of WCW, but I feel like that's a movie you should enjoy it for what it is.
Oh yeah.
And I feel a lot of times people, I don't know what you were expecting watching that movie, if not exactly what you got. And, and a very entertaining performance by Oliver Platt to boot.
And you get some Joey Pants.
It's I'll Die on the Hill of Ready to Rumble's a ton of fun. If you watch pro wrestling or like older pro wrestling, it's an absolutely essential watch. Speaking of essential watches, Roger Corman. That wound up to be an unexpectedly entertaining episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, that it kind of came out. I mean, sadly, it came out of nowhere, but um, it really like shine the light on a guy who just if you gave him 3 days and a camera, the dude can make anything work, good or bad, but he'd make it work. We got to see
Absolutely.
some cool stuff that I'd never seen before, whether on purpose or on accident.
I gotta say, the one to me that sticks in my memory more than the others was the utterly insane Big Bad Mama. Holy cow, that movie. Bree and I talk about it often, especially about the some of the most hilarious use of nudity I've seen in a movie because it's just like it seemed like they had a timer up. It's like 3 minutes have passed. Pull your boobs out.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
just it was an absurd movie, and man, I gotta watch the sequel because that was something.
yeah. And I love that one. Just talking about that one. That one was the accident. Like we had the wrong title.
Yes, that was not what I intended for, but man, as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents, man.
Yeah. And that leads into someday. Again, we're gonna have to cover the Carnosaur trilogy.
Yes, um, and that's another one. It's like we could do Carnosaur, we could do more Corman, we could do dinosaurs because you know quite a few dinosaur movies out there beyond just the Jurassic Park. You just think when people you think dinosaur movies, it's synonymous with Jurassic Park. There's a lot more out there, including some that go quite a ways back that are still pretty entertaining movies.
Yep. Speaking of animals, I had a lot of fun doing our top 10 animal attack movies. It's a weird genre. There's not a lot of animals that like I'm scared of. I I when I people talk about what things scare you, what animals scare you, I always go back to that joke from Dog Soldiers. There's only three things that scare me: spiders, women, and Spider Women. Um, and yes, there were a lot of alligator movies, but you know what? Number one, because he came up recently in something. Oh, and the review I did for Wolf of Snow Hollow, Robert Forster's last movie, which he is phenomenal in. Even you can tell he's it's he's close. He's still fantastic that movie. If you have not seen Louis Teague's Alligator from 1980, it's I think the professional term is blasty blast. You're gonna have an awesome time with it.
Oh man, what a fun movie! And it's like that one ended up making my top 10 list. Uh, and just it's a fun genre.
Yeah.
The animal attack movies, they make for such fun movies with some interesting spins on them. You know, it's like on my list I have like the Terrible Slugs, the Fantastic Crawl, and my personal favorite of Unknown Origin. And yeah, a lot of fun with that episode. It's just a pretty fun year overall, and we covered a wide variety of topics and reviewed a lot of movies, talked about various genres, and it's just what's wild to me is just despite all we covered, we just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
We have so much more, and it's like in preparing for this episode, writing down, I had my notepad on my phone and writing down ideas for episodes. There is so much to draw from.
Yep.
Man, we had some bangers in 2024.
I will say I want to see if I'm gonna see if we're on the same page with this, and then we can move on to the next topic. I think we did it this. Did we do was Jeff Daniels this year or was that last year?
Looking here, I think Jeff Daniels was at the tail end of last year. But if you want to
Okay.
talk about, you want to touch on it, we can. Because
All
man,
I all I wanted to say was of I mean it's a fun episode, but I was gonna say if it had been this year, what movie of all the movies we've covered in our lives, 12 lives, we're covering at least what 4 movies alive, at least.
yes,
Um, but Jeff Daniels' episode has the crown for having the one movie that was so difficult to find that ended up being the biggest piece of shit that you and I now own forever with
Chasing
Chasing Sleep.
Sleep. What a I what a terrible movie. And it's like a movie that got weird, but not the good way. It's like, oh, there's a giant baby now. What is going on? Uh, but it was kind of, I say it was counterbalanced in that episode by the fact that we got to watch the Grand Tour, which one of the ones that's really surprised me the most of movies we've watched for the live streams. I was really blown away by how well done it was. It's a shame for how forgotten it was too. I'm glad we could shed a little bit of light on it.
Yeah.
But so Jeff Daniels, we love you for the Grand Tour. And what were you thinking with Chasing Sleep?
They were chasing that Stir of Echoes money, baby.
That's
Everything
another
had to
one.
be
Nothing about it works like at
nope.
all.
That was that. It is the like what when you close your eyes and you try to picture what was an artisan film movie in the year 2000. It's that movie. It's that movie. It's Blair Witch 2. It's Stir of Echoes. It's D. Snyder's Strangeland. All those movies for all the sometimes valid, sometimes don't come after me, internet.
Okay.
Sometimes valid shit that Marvel movies get for being kind of cookie cutter at this point. Was it 20 years in? the fact that every single low budget artisan home video movie, like you could put them on top of each other like a Venn diagram, it's all blue. But speaking of, now we've talked about what we've talked about, now it's time to see what are we going to talk about. Because I'm gonna again back to that nuts and bolts sausage thing. Usually, how it works is it's like, hey, what do you want to talk about this month? And we bat around some ideas. So we thought it would be more fun for you guys who actually come in and watch these videos to brainstorm with us, and maybe we try to line up this year's live so that way uh, we can be on top of the ball, baby. So there are a few that are going to be the same kind of every year. Uh, Such as I think I kind of agree with you. Like January should definitely always be a simple, easy watch to play catch up. I'm fine with doing our best and worst of 2024. I always say everybody gets their opinions out at the end of December, 1st of January, and then you wait for the facts at the end of February.
Yes.
December is always this Christmas party just because it's a fun, loose kind of hangout. We don't have to talk about anything in particular. But I've got a list here of just some ideas. I know Nick does, and again in chat, like I want to hear them, and we'll kind of bat these around. Starting with one that we talked about earlier today. I figure since that film comes out in July, are you down for doing that review, or I don't know if it's a review or ranking, however you want to do it, of the Superman films?
Yes. That seems like great timing for me.
So yeah, we're gonna do Superman, the live action Superman movies, his solo films. Like we're not gonna include BVS or Justice League. It's Superman 1 through 4, Superman Returns, uh, Man of Steel, and then by that time, New Superman will be out. So July we'll be talking all about the Boy in Blue. So this is kind of just go back and forth if you want. Just kind of throw out some ideas if you've got any. We'll just kind of go back and forth and then go to the chat when they've got some, and we'll just kind of play it by ear and kind of we'll maybe not right now if we don't want to, but we can kind of see where they would might fit in here in the year of our Lord 2025.
All right. Uh, I was inspired by my. I've got a list of like 25 suggestions. I will not list off every one of them. Um, I liked what we've done where we in the past where we picked actors and kind of gone over some of their movies or gone over some of their stranger movies. A few I listed kind of along this theme is terrible John Travolta movies. There's a lot to draw from.
Oh
I was
God.
inspired by watching the review of Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, along with a review for his movie Gotti. Keeping along that same theme, weird Stallone movies. Because
Okay.
Stallone, kind of like Jeff Daniels, he has some oddballs in his filmography that a lot of people aren't aware of or have kind of been forgotten. And I think some of those would be fun to cover. I mean, we already covered Over the Top. There's more. There's a lot more.
At this point, would it be easier to do the better John Travolta movies than the worst John Travolta movies?
Yeah. I figured we could just pull a few from
Some classic era
his
John Travolta,
long.
because now he's the new like Bruce Willis secret movie actor. Like you'll walk into a store and there'll be like 6 DVDs he's in, or go to Amazon Prime and there's like 12 new movies starring John Travolta you've never seen before.
And they have a picture of him that's clearly from 1994. It's like, okay, he doesn't look like that anymore. Uh, Later on in the list, I must have forgotten this. I put weird John Travolta movies. So John Travolta made my list of potential topics twice. Um,
Fine, Nick.
Another
We'll talk
one.
about John Travolta.
eh, Fun fact: I'm not even a big fan of Travolta. I don't think he's. I think he's pretty overrated, but he's made some schlock. So, uh, I said weird Stallone movies. Weird Liam Neeson movies. Liam Neeson has popped up in some odd things over the years. Uh, Even before his resurgence of old guy kicks ass, which is what he's been doing for the last 16 or 17 years, ever since the first Taken came out. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't even
I can't
know.
remember what. I can't remember which podcast calls. They call them geezer pleasers. Just what?
Yes. I This is one that I don't even know where we would start with covering this guy's movies. It's Christopher Lambert movies, who's done. There are so many to choose from because man, that guy made a lot of movies. Uh, and that one, I'll parlay that into something else. Uh, that's a little off topic. I'll let you go for a bit. Which is the Highlander series because holy shit, did those get weird? Did those get bad? Although we might be looking at another Crow situation of the first is good, the second is so bizarre it's entertaining, and the rest are not great.
I've only seen. I had Highlander down. Um, I've only seen the three, and I watched the TV show, but I never saw like the Adrian Paul movies. But yeah, that could be fun because talk about like it's a movie, it's a series in name only because usually each sequel negates whatever happened in the previous film.
Espe- I mean, I want to show my wife the Highlander 2, preferably the original cut if I can get a hold of it,
The Renegade
just
cut.
because I can't remember which there's two cuts of it. Cut they're aliens. The other
Yeah,
cut they're from the future or from the past.
yeah.
Either way, it's confusing. Because I remember being a kid and watching the TV series, watching the movie, the first movie, then watching the second one, and I could not have been more confused. I was like, wait, what? They're aliens now? Why is people flying? Going on with the ozone layer? It was so out there. But anyway, uh,
Oh, there is that
getting
remake
back,
coming out. They are doing that. They are doing that remake with Cavill.
that I've heard that for a while. That's one of those when I see
Yeah.
more concrete info on it, it'll be, I'll be interested to see. Actually, like Henry Cavill a lot for
Mm-hmm.
that role. But yeah, just going from I so enjoyed our Jeff Daniels episode, or like when we talked about Nicolas Cage. I think going after more oddball movies from well-known actors, there's just a lot to draw from there. There's so many cool movies we could go after, and so many actors we could look at, and people being like, "I never knew he made that." Because even though it's like Stallone made a lot of mainstream odd movies, but he's had some stuff in there that's kind of been lost.
Yeah.
Some good, some not. Anyway, why don't you throw a few at me?
All right. So piggybacking off of our last live where we talked about early 2000s comedies.
Yes.
Between that and then of course that Fear.com release. Early 2000s horror movies that are not remakes because yes, the early 2000s was remake city and you have some good ones, you have some bad ones. You have some ones that we could honestly do an episode on and talk about that would be a lot of fun to just completely demolish. That are so terrible, others that are fantastic. But there was a lot of really weird, again, some good, some bad, original horror films in the early 2000s. I mean, on one hand, you have something like Fear.com. On the other, you've got Session 9. Donnie Darko falls in there kind of somewhere in the middle. I think there are a lot of really fun early 2000s horror genre movies that were kind of blind or left on the wayside because of all we wanted was IP remakes. And I think it'd be something kind of fun to dive into.
I think that's a great idea given the age we are. By the way, we're both turning 40 this year. Wow.
I saw a TikTok where some girl was talking about her. She found a one of those like juicy sweatsuits. You remember like the speaking of
Yes.
allure, like, but she called it vintage, and I cried. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like that. Anywho, we're going to stay young forever.
yeah,
Um, no. Uh, Given us coming of age in that era, I think that one's a lock. I think we need to do that.
yeah.
Given how big into horror we were at that point and still are, uh, I'd be interested to revisit some of those because there's a lot of interesting movies from that era that I haven't watched in a while. And yeah, you typically think of like when you think of early 2000s horror, people are going to think about Freddy versus Jason and Jason X, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You go to remakes,
Yeah.
sequels. There's a lot more outside of that, though. There's a
That
lot
and
more
then you had
worth
the you had
revisiting,
the you had the you had the J horror boom of like The Ring and The Grudge and those movies as well.
which are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll piggyback after that. Off that, I thought about doing an episode about Asian versus American remakes because we had The Grudge,
Mm-hmm.
American, the Japanese version, the American version, uh, and Ringu versus Ring, kind of side by side to see what works and what doesn't. Um, we could, or we could definitely cover some of those separately.
So I'm down because they um number one is one is a joke, but one is serious because like a movie that came out this year, See No or Speak No Evil. It's a remake of a
Yes.
movie from only 2 years ago, but it's a foreign film, so we Americans don't like we do not here we came here to lead, not read. So we don't like subtitles. Well, they're doing the same thing with a phenomenal film, like phenomenal, a transcendent in its own genre film. Train to Busan is now getting an American remake. It's called like Last Train to Brooklyn because we don't have a bullet train system. So none of them. It's just got to be like a subway car in New York City.
We don't want any of those communist trains.
Um, but here's the thing: some of that'll be a lot of fun. But you know what movie we're probably gonna have to talk about? We're gonna talk about that Old Boy remake.
I I'm down for that. I am a defender of that movie. I have a I apparently one of the few that really liked it, so I will definitely talk about it.
That'll be a good one. I like. Let me. So another one, one I've written down is now I can just hope and pray we get that Ricky O American remake. Um, a simple one. It's another franchise. Honestly, you gave me a second idea for another one. This one will be fun because it's a franchise that I think we can agree neither one has no misses. It's a franchise batting 1,000. At least it is for me. Also, ironically, has TV show and video games we can talk about and dissect as well, and that is the Evil Dead franchise.
Yes. Not a bad movie in the bunch. In fact, I would go on a limb and say every movie in the series is great.
Mm-hmm.
I've not played all the video games, but A Fistful of Boomstick is one of my favorite PS2 games. So it will be it would be us just gushing about it for a
Yeah,
couple hours, but I mean it's the Evil Dead.
yeah.
Come on.
But then there's another one in the works. So I mean, they're gonna as long as they can. Like I said, they're batting 1,000. So as long as you're giving me quality every time, let's keep Evil Dead going. Ash or no Ash, I'm down. Um, so this is where the Hitcher came into my idea. So every November, I like to do, and this is my favorite theme month on YouTube. It's our neo noir November. We get to cover some. It's I love neo noirs. I think they're great movies to watch. They're great movies to talk about and dissect. Going back to where we were discussing at the start, whether it's Yellowstone, um, Landman, keeping on the Taylor Sheridan train, movies like Hell or High Water, Wind River, even to movies that for me are like 10 out of 10 masterpieces like No Country for Old Men. The neo western kind of really picked up in the late 2000s. So we could do those. But wouldn't it be more fun to do a subgenre of a subgenre? And so I have genre neo westerns. Here's the list I have compiled so far. We have The Hitcher, Outland with Sean Connery,
Yes.
um, Near Dark. We did The Road Warrior, but you can always talk about The Road Warrior or something like it. And then one that kind of covers a favorite of all of ours, Big Trouble in Little China.
I think there's some solid options there. Also, we did not review The Road Warrior.
Oh, we didn't. We just reviewed the new one, didn't we?
We just reviewed Mad
Mad
Max. We
Max,
reviewed the
yeah.
original and several of the ripoffs, as we're planning
That's
to
right. That's right.
get
So
around to
yeah, we could do
reviewing
the Road
all of
Warrior.
them at some point. So we could absolutely throw that in.
Yes.
And that's very much in fitting in with our plans to eventually review all those movies,
Yeah.
along with a variety of faithful replicas. Let's
Yeah.
see. I will. I I was just popping these in as I thought of them over the course of a week. I put WTF sequels and weird sequels.
Okay.
I get inspired by Highlander of the Highlander 2 Quickening of sequels that went in some really strange directions.
Okay.
That it's like, okay, I wasn't expecting they go there with it. I don't have any other examples off the top of my head, but I'm sure we could find some.
So I've got two that immediately popped in my head that I think you would be down for. They're both horror films because it's a genre that easily happens in. One I mentioned earlier. We talk about The Howling 2,
Oh man.
a movie felt at the time so bad that uh, Christopher Lee apologized to Joe Dante for being in it. The other one is a movie that it's not good, but it would be a blast to talk about, and that is Jack Frost 2.
Oh man.
Because what do you do if you have a Killer Snowman Child's Play ripoff? You take him to the Bahamas, baby.
The more I think about it, it's like, yeah, yeah. There's things we can things we can work with there. Just like, oh yeah, we're getting a sequel to this beloved movie. It's like, wait, what?
Yep.
As, and that's happened. You mentioned Near Dark, which reminds me of one of the ones I was going to suggest. Went and Nosferatu yesterday. Quite enjoyed it. I it's getting mixed reviews. I thought it was very well done.
I saw it last Saturday. We will discuss it probably next month. So no
Okay.
spoilers for now.
Um, I got to thinking because I went to go see Bud Tommy and watch it, and we got to talking a little bit about sexy versus monstrous vampires, about the different depictions of the erotic, beautiful, sexy vampires versus the gross, monstrous, nasty, predatory vampires. Um, Quite a contrast in how vampires are portrayed. And I think it'd be interesting to look at kind of the origin of the fictional vampire and the different incarnations it's taken, and which one we like better.
Okay.
And I'll, and I'll, and I'll, and I think there's merits to both.
Yeah. I don't need a reason to watch The Hunger, baby. So when I had, um, I didn't write down any titles. I don't even remember what brought it up. They could be good. They could be bad. We could talk about our favorites. But something that we've never really discussed, and that's musicals. Do you
All
have any
on
music?
board.
Huh?
I am all on board. I'm a sucker for musicals ever since my mom took me to the Shortgrass Playhouse in Hobart, Oklahoma, and we watched The Music Man. My mom and I loved watching musicals together. Drove my dad crazy, and there's some fantastic, weird musicals out there, like Hannibal the Musical, like Repo the Genetic Opera. Some truly amazing, interesting genre musicals that we can absolutely cover. It would be a blast.
Yeah, I think we might find something you might even like, Logan. Maybe because yeah, there are some wild and weird musicals.
Have you ever seen Cannibal the Musical, Logan? Because it's great from the makers of South Park. Ah,
I
just
I repo, Rocky Horror. Like we could talk about that
uh,
one,
I,
and then go ahead.
an obscure one. I've been looking for an excuse to watch called Big Meat Eater. It's from the '80s. It's super low budget, and it's about a man-eating alien coming down to Earth and like setting up a restaurant.
That sounds awesome. Um, One just a simple throw out when you mentioned Liam Neeson is the first thing that popped into my head. Um, Another, we do some superhero stuff. Um, and again, it's a movie that maybe shouldn't have been a franchise, but we could always talk about the Dark Man trilogy.
Talk about what?
Dark Man.
Yes, uh, that that is one too. If we could do the series, or we could throw it in
Yeah.
and kind of broaden out one of the ones I would suggest, which is '80s and '90s comic book movies, and we could extend that out to encompassing superhero movies. Looking at kind of we've been living in the MCU era since 2008. I thought it would be interesting to look at some of the comic book and superhero movies of the time before. Uh, and I'm not talking about like X-Men or Superman. I'm talking about Doctor Mordred, which is basically Doctor Strange, only they didn't have to pay a licensing fee.
Mm-hmm.
The ill-fated Fantastic Four movie, the Roger Corman one from the '90s,
Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren's Punisher, Howard the Duck, Conan the Barbarian. There's a lot to draw from there, but we'll see. I don't know how much we're gonna want to do this year in the way of comic movies since we are doing a Superman episode. Although there is one more comic book related one I want to cover, just because I think it would make for really good conversation, and that's covering the 6 movies from the Sonyverse. Of the 6 comic book movies they did, the Venom trilogy, Morbius, Morbius the Living Vampire, Madam Web, and Craven the Hunter, because they took some beloved properties and it went terribly wrong. And I'm kind of curious to watch those, and we could talk about what went wrong, where they went, where it all went bad, and what they could have done differently.
Yeah, see, I have not. I've only seen the first Venom, which I kind of had fun with, so I would be curious about that one. I too have one more comic book one that's kind of off the beaten trail, and it's because if you're of a certain age and you were into like the more mature comics, there was one name that was kind of like known as the master of the storytelling format. Um, and four of his biggest books were made into movies. Uh, and whether good or bad, because that can be the part of the discussion. He swore off Hollywood and refused to take any part in any adaptation, and that is the films of Alan Moore.
Yep. Um, those would be it would be interesting to cover. I think Alan Moore is a pretentious douchebag. I think he's an absolutely awful human being with a hugely elevated opinion of himself. He also happens to be pretty talented, although I would argue that he has had more misses than hits.
That's true.
But, but I that'd be a fascinating one to go over because
Because one of those movies,
there's
I think is almost a perfect adaptation. One I
yes,
really enjoy despite its flaws. One is not a good adaptation, but it's stylish enough for me to enjoy. And the other one is The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
it, it, and there's like looking at the movies based on Alan Moore properties, man. There's definitely some good stuff to draw from, and I think given see, I'm looking here. There's six movies, and there is an interesting combination of movies of wildly varying quality.
So are you including? Because I had four. Are you including Constantine and because he did create the character? Or
Okay,
what?
let's see. It is including the list has From Hell,
Uh huh.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Uh huh.
Constantine,
Okay.
V for Vendetta,
Yeah, I had that one.
Watch, Watchmen, and Batman: The Killing Joke, which is the animated movie from 2016.
I wasn't thinking Constantine or the Killing Joke. Yeah, we can add that. We could do those six. That'd be fine. I'm gonna tell you right now. I don't know if I really want to rewatch the Killing Joke. Um, boy, that I saw that on a Fathom event, so I paid like super theater prices to go see that for a one night only screening, and that is a real. When are we getting to it? Because I don't care if the movie's only 40 minutes. You don't need to add in what you added in because that's terrible.
No,
Yeah, so that one, and then my last idea I had because I love, and it's a thing that I can watch them a million times, much to Amber's chagrin. But if you're ever at home, you're into movies, and you've got a lot of laundry to fold, movies and movie documentaries, and the top echelon of that being not quite Hollywood about exploitation movies from the like 60s, 70s, and 80s is a great time. And so I kind of wanted to talk about. I have it listed as Australian sleepers, and there's some that you mentioned. Frauds being one. Road Games, which I think is like a killer thriller that nobody knows about, and it's so good. Like you,
yeah,
to quote Tarantino in that documentary, you could release that movie today and it would do gangbusters. Like that movie's fantastic. Um, Next of Kin, which is like this weird Australian David Lynch haunted house movie. Nightmares, which is like this bizarre. I think it's like a bizarre anthology. Uh,
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I love that movie.
uh, Rogue for Logan because it's a giant crocodile movie.
Yes.
And Dead Calm because I know a lot of buzz right now is about that Nicole Kidman like sexy lady movie that she did. Was Baby Girl that's out now.
Yes.
Uh, but my first sexy Nicole Kidman movie, she still had her natural hair and was on a boat with Sam Neill and Billy Zane. A little movie called Dead Calm, which is
Yes.
fantastic. Um, so yeah, just doing some weird Australian movies, man.
Nice, Logan. Nice. Inside joke. Uh, for a few more, I'll just throw a few more of my suggestions out there. Famous box office flops of the 80s and 90s because you had movies. I don't know if you want to watch it like Heaven's Gate, of course, Dune, which could fill in later. There was a lot of interesting flops of movies that just tanked hard in that era. That the big misses are the ones that really interest me. Of the ones that they thought were going to be huge, but just absolutely bombed. Speaking of bonds, I'm addicted to watching movies about this topic. 0% Rotten Tomatoes movies. Movies that were so bad, literally everybody who watched them said they were bad. Because every critic, some of those have me curious. And some of them I'm just like, well, we've just watched some complete and utter bullshit. I'm always down for watching complete and utter bullshit.
Hey, we can. That's where you can put in your Highlander too, because it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I
But
know we
yes,
talked
go ahead.
remakes, the good and the bad. Of course, remakes is
Mm-hmm.
always something we can cover, and we talked a little bit about the Asian versus American remakes. One that we talked a little bit. You talked about westerns. I was going to mention Weird West, one of my favorite subgenres of just unusual supernatural or science fiction western movies. There's some interesting ones in that genre, like the Burrowers or Grim Prairie Tales, Valley of the Guanji, Pale Rider, High Plains Drifter. A lot of interesting ones there that I think would be a lot of fun to talk about and revisit. But I'll say there's one subject that I'm surprised you have not brought up because we have yet to do an episode about this, and that's Stephen King adaptations. We have yet to do a full blown episode reviewing some. There's so many to choose from. Kind of going, we could either review some or do a list, however you want to do it.
Yeah,
But I think
so
Stephen King episodes is something we need to get around to.
I agree. And again, you could. There's so many off points to start with. I could tell you that I thought about doing one, um, but there's a time next month where I will be talking about a Stephen King adaptation. And the one that I'm really excited about that may be coming out, and one that came out that will definitely be talked about next month. But the one that kind of stuck in my mind, and it'll work out because I finally found a cheap enough copy of it. It would be a longer, probably. It would be one of those. It would be a live we would have to plan in advance because it's a lot of hours watching. But doing a compare and contrast with the stands.
I had honestly, that's one that's been in my mind for a while because we have not discussed that. You're right. It would take a lot of doing. That's some hours of watching. I think that's it, it could. That's the thing. We could do live streams. That could be something pre-recorded. We
Yeah.
do. However you want to do it. I think we need to talk about the stand at some point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Because
hitting Steve.
well,
I
I
think
was just
having a
gonna.
Stephen King episode.
Good.
Sorry,
No,
having
you're
a
good.
Stephen King episode in some regard would be good to hit.
No, I was just kind of round. Well, I'll save it if we do that live because that would be. Um, honestly, if you're willing, you want to pencil that in for our Halloween episode.
Stephen King.
To do the stand. Let's do the stand
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the stand was kind of the stand for sure was my introduction knowingly to Stephen King, and it was an early spot in our friendship.
Yes, it was.
So we're gonna do the stand for October.
I got to break away for a minute. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. I'll check here in the chat. Uh, yeah. So I think Logan. I think it was just a limited series because it was supposed to come out. It was actually supposed to come out like that early 2020, and then because of COVID, they were like, we can't put this out right now. Like we cannot put this out. Um, and yeah, so they push it to the end of the year. But it should be the end of that should be the whole series. I would also like to talk about going into the stand, like how many versions of the stand there were supposed to be. At one time, George Romero was going to do a version of the stand, and they just couldn't get the money for it. Like the logistics of it was too big. And then, of course, you had the '94 McGarris version, and then off the heels of it, you know, making bank. Um, they were all in on Stephen King stuff, and for a while, there was going to be I think it was supposed to be a theatrical stand. It was going to be split, I believe, into 2 or 3 movies they were going to do, possibly 4. But at one time, Ben Affleck was attached to star and possibly direct. So it would be interesting digging into the details of those versions. Um, Now the stand, like this, there's a lot of fond memories with the stand, and a lot of them involve a very young Nick and myself. So I'm super excited to dig into that. And I think pushing that till October, that'll be a fun Halloween dig into because that's the original stand without commercials. I believe was 8.5 hours, and then the 2020 stand is 10 hour episode, not 10 hour long episodes. So almost 20 hours of content to watch plus read about what could have been. um, Actually, I got a great book I can dig into called Untold Horror where they talk about movies that never got made. um, but yeah, like I said, what do you guys want to talk about because you're here? And yes, like I said, we your Plex man has been a godsend on trying to find new movies to watch, and so many movies that are gonna be on both of my lists. I was able to see because in here I live in Western Oklahoma, man. Unless it's either super huge or super Jesus. Like there's a lot of movies we don't get around here. Uh, or I got to drive like an hour and a half to the city to go watch. Up at the mall. So like Nosferatu, I saw it at Quail Springs. Yeah, that was the closest I could get to it. Um, but I've got the stand now. They finally actually released the original one on Blu-ray, and it looks fantastic. I think I watched it in 2020 in preparation for when the other one was going to release, and then just never got to watch the 2021. And then it came out on Blu-ray, and then was just stupid expensive. And I finally found a cheap used copy that was in really good shape on eBay. So that'll be a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
now we've
I
got a
left my.
lot. Go ahead.
Sorry, I left my phone. I'll be right back.
Dude, the Empty Man fucking rules. That was a movie that I. Two things just killed that movie, and it sucks. Uh, Disney buying Fox and COVID. Uh, because The Empty Man is fantastic. But it's the same thing that happened with that is the same thing that happened to Underwater with Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart. It's just because of that Fox Disney merger, it was buried. And then, like I said, on top of that, Empty Man had the misfortune of coming out right as COVID hit and was just buried under everything. Um, yeah, the Empty Man blew. I like randomly watched it one day. I was like, "Oh, the Empty Man," and the trailer doesn't do the movie any justice. The trailer kind of sucks.
No, it doesn't.
Um, but I started watching it and I was blown away by how good that movie is. And I think now some people are starting to talk about it. You can get copies of it um, through means. I have a Blu-ray copy of it um, through a site where you can sell your crafts, and it's itsy to sell them there. But it's not a movie that it's just kind of lost. I think it was buried on Hulu, if it's even still there. Um, Speaking of movies that we are now we have a list of movies we're going to look forward to talking about. But oh no, Nick, the is it? It's not Holbrook, is it? Holbrook's kids in it. Um, the bad guy from Logan, I think, is in it. It's either him or Kurt Russell's son. It's one of those two are in it.
I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah, like I said, it came out like it was like, hey, January 2020. Oh, what's that? The world shut down. Oh, too bad we're all in our home watching Tiger King. Nobody can go to the theater and watch this little underrated werewolf movie. So I've got a list here of 10 or 11 movies that are on the docket that I'm legitimately, because like I said, we review movies every week. We do these huge lives every month, but every week there's a new review out. Not always a brand new movie, but we try to do them when we can. Plus, we're just fans of movies. So I've got a list here. I know you've got a list. We're just kind of back and forth it again. And then you guys in the chat, Amber, Logan, what are some of your most anticipated movies of 2025? Because based on this list I've got, there's looking to be some fun times had at the theater this year.
Yes. I'll, I'll start us off. I have my doubts on how well this is going to turn out. I love the original movie, but it's a remake. I'm curious. It's The Running Man. The remake of The Running Man, I believe it's dropping in November, starring the latest Hollywood stud muffin Glenn Powell. Uh, I think I am hopeful it will be a very entertaining movie. The original's a great time, and I've heard rumors of them remaking The Running Man for a very long time. So, I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, it's on my list. I love Edgar Wright. I mean, who doesn't love the Coronado trilogy? Even Baby Driver. I really dug One Night in Soho. I thought it was a blast. I'd be really curious to see him take on this version of the story. It looks like they are going back. This isn't a remake of that Schwarzenegger movie. It's a remake of the book.
Yes.
Speaking of Stephen King, that's what I mean by Stephen King, because it's a Bachman book, but it's Stephen King's pseudonym. That's a great story, and a movie that even today, still you can't do as faithful an adaptation as it's a real like end of Watchmen situation because the end of that story. You definitely couldn't do that uh, now in a movie.
Yeah.
Just look up the ending to the Running Man novel. I don't need to get us kicked off of Twitch talking about it, but it's a wild book, and it's very stripped down. I'm excited for it. I'll be curious to see Glenn Powell because I've mostly seen him play kind of this cocksure guy, whether Twisters or Top Gun Maverick. So it'll be interesting to see his take on Ben Richards. And as much as I love the Running Man, the OG one, we always when we were at camp, we one year, we all named ourselves after the hunters, the runners, or the hunters. We were all different
Yes.
ones. It's a fun movie. It's a fun dumb movie, but I would like to see this story done well. There's also two other King adaptations coming out, so I'll hit them real quick. Not a lot to talk about them. Supposedly, The Long Walk is coming out.
That's what I hear.
That is. I know everybody who hates on the Hunger Games. Some of it's warranted. Full disclosure: my wife made me read those books, and I hated the ending of it. A lot of people immediately go Running Man, or Battle Royale from Japan. The Long Walk was kind of the first of those, just like this dystop. But the Long Walk is such a simple movie, a simple story that I'll be excited to see if they're able to pull it off and keep up the suspense of it, because it is essentially, I mean, it's essentially the Hunger Games. Instead of killing each other, it's a bunch of boys walking, for like a game show.
It's it's a simple premise. It's one of those. It doesn't not as action packed that it doesn't pop, but I really think there's a lot of potential there for that to be a very interesting movie, a very
Yeah,
well done movie,
yeah.
and one of those unflinchingly brutal movies
Mm-hmm.
too.
And then hot off the heels of Long Legs, Oz Perkins doing a adaptation of Stephen King's The Monkey, which is like this weird like monkey's paw / Death Note movie. I don't know a lot about it. I think the story's in. I think it's in Night Shift, but it looks fun, and I love Oz Perkins, and so that's on my list because I am down for some
Well,
weird carnage.
yeah, caught a trailer for that last night. That looks dumb as shit. I can't lie. I was like, wait, are they serious with this? We'll talk about long legs in the future. So,
I
yeah,
do hope it
I'm
has a
glad you're
little
looking forward
bit.
to it.
I do hope it has a little bit of because yes, that trailer. To me, it feels like it could be this year's Malignant, and if it's that, then I am 100% behind it.
We'll see. Uh, as Logan mentioned in the chat, one that it's been done before so many times. You had me at Guillermo del Toro with Frankenstein. I couldn't pick anybody better to do a Frankenstein movie. Yes, we've seen the story many times over. Sometimes done very well. Sometimes done very strangely, like Frankenstein Unbound, which we should talk about one day. But I don't see any way Guillermo del Toro can't do justice to the story.
Yeah, that's a movie much like Cavill's Highlander. Is like I'm pretty sure like 20 years ago, like there was talk about like we were on upcominghorrormovies.com talking about uh Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Like I'm kind of excited for it. But it's one of those ones like let me see something of it and I'll maybe believe it. Especially with
Yeah,
Del Toro because there have been so many Del Toro movies coming that I have wanted so bad and have literally got none of them.
it's constantly getting set up for disappointment. Uh, Real quick, I saw it on the stream for some reason. It did not make my list. Predator Badlands. Absolutely, I loved Prey. I think it was the best Predator movie since the original Predator. On board that I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with Predator Badlands.
Oh yeah, uh, definitely on my list. And something else, kind of a movie getting a I don't know if it's necessarily a sequel to Prey, but like I like the idea of what we're doing. A movie that is a sequel to a movie that, again, well, going back to the idea of a movie that's been on the horizon for 20 years, and we're finally getting it 28 years later.
Yes.
I love Alex Garland. Danny Boyle's back. I cannot wait for this movie.
Um, talking about a movie that I mean goes way back for us, and us watching that in Lawton at the mall over 20 over 20 years ago. Um, and us being, I remember going out to your truck afterwards, and us just being blown away that movie, and we both knew it's like we had just witnessed something special.
Yep.
I loved 28 months later, 28 years later. I think is going to be excellent, and I can't wait. That might be my number one most anticipated movie of this year. On a zombie subgenre or infected subgenre, the documentary about George A. Romero's Resident Evil comes out this year,
Yeah.
with them talking about his, working on making a Resident Evil movie. I don't know a lot about that story, to be honest, and I'm fascinated. I think it's going to be frustrating in a sense to see what we missed out on, but
I I hope so, because I don't think it will be, but there's a small, like, scared part of me that it's going to end up being something like Jodorowsky's Dune documentary, where you watch the document because you think, okay, Alejandro Jodorowsky, he's going to make Dune. Pink Floyd's doing the soundtrack. This sounds great. And then you watch the documentary about, like, he shows you the designs they were going with, and like the what they were building, and you're like, that this would have never worked. Thank God
no,
this has ever happened.
no.
This would have never been a
There,
movie.
there, there was zero chance he was going to get Mick Jagger and Salvador Dali and the biggest budget ever to make a 10-hour movie. Never going to happen. But it's always fascinating to see uh, what could have been. Oh, correction. It wasn't 28 months later. It was 28 weeks later. It was the sequel.
And I like that sequel. I
For
think it's a good
correcting that.
movie.
Yes, yes. I mistakenly thought it was 28 months later. No, it's a great sequel.
Yeah.
It's a movie.
That 28 years later is almost, like it touches the sun as being my number one. And maybe it makes me like a bad person or a good Scientologist. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is supposed to be it. A few years ago, I did a massive rewatch, I think, to get ready for the one where Henry Cavill like pumps shotguns as arms. Talk about a franchise that the worst of those movies is pretty fucking cool. So like, if this is gonna be the it for Tom Cruise and the Mission Impossible franchise, I loved The Reckoning Part One, Dead Reckoning Part One. I like the title change. I love the Mission Impossible series.
Um, my bud Tommy, he swears by him, loves those movies. I've not kept up with them. I need to go on a bench and watch those. You know what's wild is the first Mission Impossible movie came out 29 years ago.
Not only
It,
that, some people will argue, not me, and that leads me to possibly doing an episode, as being the last great De Palma movie. Because you'll forget, Brian De Palma directed the first Mission Impossible.
and we talked about that. By the way, another one to throw in the hat. We talked about it before, just a straight up De Palma episode, because man, there's some good stuff to talk about and some weird stuff to talk about. Might be a
Go
bit of a
ahead.
I might be a bit of a basic bitch with two of these. They're both sequels. I was really impressed by Megan. I really enjoyed Megan, and apparently we're getting Megan 2.0 this year. It's a fun tech horror movie, and I think it knew exactly what it was doing and nailed it. And the other sequel, oh, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no, no. Well, all I was going to throw for Megan was I remember last year watching Megan, and I literally clicked play and was like, I'm watching this to put it on my bottom 10. Uh, and it made my honorable mentions that year. That movie's so much fun. It knows what it
What,
is. It's so much better than that
what?
Child's Play remake. It's fantastic.
Oh, Logan, Megan's definitely worth watching. Give it a shot. I had a lot of fun with it. Creepy, well done, a lot of fun.
Watch the unrated
Uh,
cut so you get a little more of the gore.
yes, absolutely. The other sequel is in a completely different direction is Zootopia 2 because I'm a child and I still love kids movies. I love Zootopia. I love that it's an amazing allegory for racism and prejudice. I'm looking forward to Zootopia 2. And along with Logan on the subject of kids movies, the live action How to Train Your Dragon because I love me some How to Train Your Dragon, and I can't wait to see Gerard Butler as Stoic. Uh, I'm a kid at heart. I love a good kids movie. Even though my daughter's now 17, she does too. It's still something we really enjoyed to this day.
I will say I'm more interested in that than all of the Disney remakes. It's probably, and I know this is blasphemy to say, so don't start screaming at me now, this late into the stream. I've never seen the original How to Train Your Dragon movies. So this live action version, I give that movie. It looks better, like it's not 90% CGI, and then call it live action. But it looks so much better than those Disney live action CG movies.
I think it lends itself better to a live action movie than a lot of the other properties. Um, I think all three of the How to Train Your Dragon movies are very much worth watching, especially the original. This fantasy Viking setting is great. It has such color and heart and imagination. They're such wonderful. It's like it's kids movies everybody can enjoy. Um, we and of course we're doing an episode, but Superman. Uh, Man, the trailer for the new Superman movie got me excited. The fact we're getting a lot of we are getting Hawk Girl, we are getting Mr. Terrific, and we are getting Bowl Cut Guy Gardner Green Lantern, which I James Gunn makes movies I love, and it looks like a fantastic representation of Corn's of Superman and David Corn Sweat. He looks the part.
Yeah,
I have high hopes.
like I said, both consciously and unconsciously, I had took a long break from superhero movies. I had superhero fatigue was real with
Yes.
me. Uh, and man, like for all, and look, I love Man of Steel. I saw BVS in the theater twice. I like BVS. I liked where Snyder was going. I like his cut of Justice League. I'm not a huge Snyder guy. Like I don't go to the internet and yell at people for liking things that aren't Zack Snyder. And that Rebel Moon can suck a butt. But I liked those movies, and I have some thoughts about why Man of Steel is good for when it came out and why it didn't appeal to everybody. But man, just when I'm not super nostalgic for those Superman movies. I grew up watching when they were on TV. Honestly, of all of them, the one I've seen the most is Quest for Peace because it was always on one of the Turner networks,
It
always.
was. It was.
But goddamn, that first riff of John Williams score with that red cape and just number one, we could do an episode on scores because our top 10 scores because Superman theme is the greatest movie theme ever written, um, in my opinion. But it looks great. I hope it does right. As somebody who is always has been a DC fan, to finally see them possibly figure it out besides Batman, I'm super excited for.
Hey, I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna make a great one. I think they're also gonna make one that has more of a wide appeal. I know the grittier take on Superman was not everyone's cup of tea. I enjoyed it. I think this is gonna be one that is. Uh, I think it's gonna succeed in ways that Man of Steel and Superman Returns did not.
Um,
Um, I got one last one on my list. Uh, I believe this is true that this is coming out this year. Speaking of Liam Neeson, apparently we're getting the Naked Gun,
that was on
and
my list.
I am all for that. That sounds wonderful. I think Liam Neeson is the perfect guy to be put in that role.
Yeah. I, I remember hearing the first thing I heard was Naked Gun remake, and I was like, "Shut your mouth, that's stupid." And they said Liam Neeson, and I went, "Oh, you have my attention." Because yeah, because him, honestly, that scene in Ted where he's at the grocery store talking about, oh, what's the vegetable?
Right. Is he talking about tricks?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what it
some
is. Yeah, Siri, yeah, the
tricks?
tricks. He's so deadpan funny. He's honestly the only one of the only good parts of that. What was really too much? A Thousand Ways to Die in the West. I
Yes.
love deadpan funny Liam Neeson. I think it'll be perfect. I'm excited to
I
see. And god damn it, I am a lover of spoof movies, and those two sons of bitches that date movied an epic movie and killed the spoof movie for everybody. If we can finally get a
yes.
decent spoof movie again, I am all ear. I'm all for it. Let's do this.
I have high hopes that this is gonna do it. Because man, it's just Liam Neeson, yes. And also thinking about Anchorman 2, where he shows up, the and various comedy bits he's in.
Mm.
It's he, he could do it. I love me some Liam Neeson.
I got a
Yeah,
couple more
that's
here, and well, I'll go ahead. I've got a couple more I want to round
yeah,
out with you real quick.
yeah.
One,
That's what I came up with for this year. So you go ahead.
yeah, one actually comes out here. I think next week. I will definitely be going to see it, and that's The Wolfman. I it was maybe because it was one of the last movies I saw before COVID in the theater. I loved The Invisible Man. I think Lee Wanell took that movie, which is an allegory in and of itself, and totally made it an allegory for today, and totally made it relevant and not silly, and made The Invisible Man genuinely scary again. I'm really excited to see his new Wolfman. I think the cast is great. The actors they got are really great actors, or have been in some really great things, and I think hopefully they nail this because I would like to see just kind of this weird modern low budget take on the Universal monster movies for the allegories that they are and kind of updating them for today's audience,
Yes.
today's mindset. I think would be a really interesting thing. So I'm jazzed for that. Uh, one I know that you didn't mention, but I know you're super excited for. It's the follow up to Barbarian. There's a teaser trailer out now. It's from the same guy, but it's called Companion. It looks interesting. I would say go watch the teaser. It has Jack Quaid in it, who I love, and I'm liking him in a lot of stuff. That new movie he has coming out called Novocaine looks dumb as shit, but it might be fun. Um, a horror movie based on a novel. There's two. Uh, One is like actively, I think, being made, and the other one is like supposed to be coming out later this year. Clown in a Cornfield, uh, by the author. I think his name is Adam Cesare. It's a really fun book. You go into it knowing exactly the title gives you exactly what you need to go into. It's a lot. It's a fun little like slasher horror book with the title like Clown in a Cornfield. Also, Paul Tremblay's Head Full of Ghosts is supposed to be coming out.
Yes.
I thought Shyamalan's version of his Knock at the Cabin. The book is Cabin at the End of the World. I think cinematically the changes he made work better than the book does. But I love Paul Tremblay. The Head Full of Ghosts, if they nail it, is one of the most stop your heart novels I've read outside of Stephen King in a long time. And
I
that
know
ending of
that's
that
one I've.
book will rip your throat out.
I know that's one of those that I've seen pop up as we need an adaptation of this. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
And then the last one I had, because we were talking about Luca, I remembered it now. Luca Guadagnino, something is very Italian. Guadagnino, filmmaker who made the Suspiria remake. Also made a really good cannibal movie, Bones and All, that nobody really talked about with Chalamet and I can't remember the girl's name. He made Challengers with Zendaya, like the super sexy erotic tennis movie. He's doing a remake of American Psycho. I love the Christian Bale movie. Uh, I am very based on what he did with his interpretation of Suspiria. I'm be interested to see what he does with American Psycho, especially if he does it as a period piece. As much as I love that the Christian Bale movie, I know a lot of people market it as a horror comedy or a black comedy. I don't know if you've ever read the book,
Yeah.
but whole like that book is rough.
Yeah. I know they toned it way down.
And based on his movies, I think he's gonna go for as much as he can. Uh, it's not Glenn Powell, but Austin Butler as Patrick Bateman. I think is an interesting choice, and
I
I
like that.
I kind of ready to see it. So I'm hoping that movie. I can't remember if it's. I think it's supposed to come out the end of this year, if not early next year. So maybe it's like hits the list again next year. But based on the power behind it, the idea of me being excited for an American Psycho remake is weird. But based on the caliber of everybody, I am here for it.
Yeah, I 2024 was a good year for movies. I think there's a lot of promising movies in 2025, and yeah, I'm looking forward to another great year of watching new movies and watching old movies and talking about those movies.
Yeah, well, there's gonna be a lot of film chat throughout this year, both new movies and just what we're doing on the live. So you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. So easiest way not to miss it is be there. Like we say, these lives we do every single month. Depending on what days, usually it's on Saturday, depending on where things fall. And, this one's a little late because, you know, it's the holidays, man. As much as I love these time with you, I don't be like, hey, Nick, it's December 27th, man. You want to talk about, your favorite whatever movie? So we wait till the holidays are over, but we do them every month. We do a lot of fun stuff on YouTube. Uh, Not every month is themed. Some are, but we also do brand new releases too. Uh, a movie that could have made my list that I kind of forgot about: The Strangers Chapter 2. Because I like that Strangers Chapter 1. Yes, is it The Strangers? You betcha. But it's The Strangers with the promise of more to come. and it's Rennie Harlan. So I'm excited for to see what they do as a sequel to The Strangers. Aside from The Strangers Pray at Night, which isn't a bad sequel to that original movie. Um, like I said before, this month January is themed. It's 90s schlock January, and it comes from two things. Number one, for years, January has been the dumping ground for studio movies. They just throw them out there, so you get a wide range of genres and films, um, which led to one of my favorite phrases from one of my favorite YouTube channels, which is Red Letter Media. Whenever they talk about those movies, because they describe it as "fuck you, it's January," and so I love schlock. The '90s are full of schlock, and so this week's going up tomorrow, my review of a really, like I said, a really bad Elm Street knockoff. It is Sleepwalker, The Last Rites of the Sandman. And talking
Oh
it,
boy.
Sandman is appropriate because I almost fell asleep multiple times in that movie. But we're going to talk about that. And then the week after that is, you've stayed long enough. You've made it. So I'm going to go ahead and spoil it here. So you're going to know if you watch this live. See, Logan, nobody else in all of YouTubedom is going to know what's on the docket. But you guys are. Week after next is the movie that is the father of a TV star and the porn star, porn star of the 80s. It's Wings Hauser and Ginger Lynn Allen in Mind, Body, and Soul,
Oh boy.
which is an unsexy, sexy cult movie.
I was gonna think it was something starring Tracy Lords, but oh boy.
The week after that, it's it's Richard Stanley's Dust Devil. My only complaint is I wanted to do the director's cut. It's not available outside of like a stupid expensive DVD. The Amazon where I got it on the Amazon Prime has the images of the cover of the director's cut, but it's just the original OG Miramax. Hey, guess what? Surprise, surprise! Miramax cut a movie to shit. So it's gonna be the theatrical cut of Dust Devil, but it's a Richard Stanley movie, and we like Richard Stanley. We like his movies. Turns out, maybe not such a cool dude.
Yeah.
And then, if I didn't give it away before, we're ending the month strong, because I don't know if I need to tell you any more than Christopher Walken plays an evil angel. We're watching The Prophecy.
Suicide Kings? No. Oh, dirt.
That was speaking of artists in early 2000s movies, man. That would be an episode just Tarantino knockoffs.
Oh man. That's a deep well to draw from.
And then in February we're gonna start doing. I'll probably do some catch up movies that are January. I love The Prophecy. Speaking of physical media, Vinegar Syndrome did The Prophecy 1, 2, and 3 on 4K. They look splendid. Shockingly that there are 5 of those movies, but only the first 3 have Walken in them. He surprisingly came back for 2 and 3, but was like 4 and 5. No, thank you. I think they were made by the same guy who was like at the exact same time making like the Hellraiser sequels. Like his name are all over those as like a writer or director, and the Children of the Corn. He was basically Miramax's, hey, we need to keep these rights, go make a movie kind of guy. But that's gonna be it for YouTube, and then next month again you've heard the rest. Wait till the end of February where you'll hear the best. Talk about the best and worst of 2024. Those are always my favorite because there are a lot of things that Nick and I agree on, and there are a lot of things that we will both have on list. They just may not be the same list.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it'll be interesting. So stay tuned for that. And um, oh, I guess I should plug January is live because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So next month we are taking, at the end of this month, we are kind of taking it easy as we play catch up with 2024. And so we were trying to figure out what to do, and I came up with this idea. So our theme is New Year, New Me. It's New Year's. We're all making resolutions. I ate some vegetables tonight. Like we're all turning over new leaves, right? Getting healthy. We're getting better. Whatever. It's the end of the month where you got to make sure you're still kind of on that. You're riding that. Let's see if I can pop Nick with this. You're gonna ride that camp high. Um, so we're gonna see. January. The end of January is when you got to find that out. And so, what better way to do that than with three workout related horror films? So we are going to be talking about Death Spa, Killer Workout, and Murder Size. And one of those movies came out in 2023.
And you all weren't ready for that subgenre, but you're gonna do it.
So get out your leotards and uh, get out of the gym because it's scary. People are dying in there. Uh,
Come, come see what wacky outfit I'll wear to get into the mood.
I mean, I'll be wearing my short like workout shorts, but you won't be able to see them. Maybe I'll wear a
Oh,
weight. Y'all
you'll
have
be
them
able to
on.
see mine. Don't worry. Get saucy up in here. Uh, Before we sign off, I just want to say I know with us we have Amber, her wife, and we have Logan, my great friend and coworker. And I just want to say thank you to both of you for your continued support. So two middle-aged guys can and childhood friends can come in here and talk about movies. Your support means so much to us. uh, Amber, with your being a great wife to Jason and being helping so much of the production of this show, and Logan for always being our biggest fan and coming here and participating and helping us out with the Plex. We love both of you guys so much, and we appreciate your support.
Absolutely. And hey, yeah, we're glad to have you guys here. To because in 2025, maybe we need to become those guys just a smidge. I don't like doing it. I don't self promote. I'm terrible at it. But Logan, if there are any of those streams you missed, if you go over to YouTube and you go to the Movie Club Emporium, you just gotta subscribe, click that bell, and you can watch. There's a good. I don't know how many are on there, but for a good chunk of them are on there. I'm even slowly have found a way to possibly uh, get the ones off of Facebook. If I can get them to work and not look like utter dog shit, to get some of those first lives, because we covered. I mean, the talk about some fun live events. We did cold weather movies. We covered Jordan Peele's 3 films. Um, I can't remember
Nicholas
what all we
Cage
did.
episode.
The
Nicholas
Nicolas
Cage
Cage
episode
episode.
was a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll have to. Hopefully, I can get a lot of those moved over there into a different thing. Um, but yeah, Nick said it best. Thank you guys so much because you. This is fun for us just because this is what we would be doing if we were in the same room. And usually, when we are in the same room, this is what happens. Um,
Exactly what we do.
it's just a way for us to do it, and the fact that you guys come and hang out with us is just makes it even better. And so, yeah, we love both you guys, and we're glad you're here. So, with that, I guess we will say goodbye 2024. No, we can't say goodbye yet. We will say goodbye to 2024 at the end of next month.
Yes.
Um, but as far as the future looks bright in 2025, it didn't rhyme, but I had nothing right off the top of my head. So, with that, I will say we will see you guys next time.
See you all later.
Bye.